The Americas have been connected by a highway known as the Pan-American Highway. This highway stretches from the northern tip in Alaska, United States, to the southern tip in Ushuaia-Argentina. Because of its length, which almost equals the length of both North America and South America, the Pan-American Highway is one of the longest road networks in the world, with a total length of more than 30,000 kilometers. Although it looks very cool because of its incredible length, it turns out that the Pan-American Highway is cut off in this section. This area is called the Darien Gap, an area of dense jungle, rugged mountains and swamps located on the border between Panama and Colombia. With a width of about 97 kilometers, the road terrain in the Darien Gap is very steep, muddy, and wet. Despite its treacherous terrain, the Darien Gap has become a major route for migration of people from various countries. The majority of migrants come from Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, and Haiti. Some even come from as far away as Angola, Bangladesh, India, and Pakistan. Those who choose to migrate through the Darien Gap because there is nothing to be gained by staying in their country. So they decide to change their fate in a country that promises more wealth. Unfortunately, poverty makes them unable to afford the cost of traveling using official channels. By 2023, more than 500,000 people had passed through the Darien Gap. Not only adults, but also many children. UNICEF says around 30,000 children under the age of 18 have crossed the Darien Gap, and some of them have died on the journey. Death on the way is one of the risks of migrating through the Darien Gap. Every year, authorities in Panama evacuate dozens of bodies in the jungle, and many disappear without a trace, swallowed by the wild. These people not only die because of the extreme conditions in the jungle, but also because of the policies of rich countries like the United States, who think that by making migration more difficult, they can reduce the number of people trying to do so. But this is not the case. The harder the journey, the more people keep trying, and the more people die. In addition, criminal groups called cartels are benefiting from this difficulty. In fact, the entire path that people take as they migrate from South America to North America through the Darien Gap is controlled by criminal organizations that make millions, even billions of dollars every year from this migration. It is impossible to cross the Darien Gap without the help of smugglers or guides, as the criminal organizations that control the region charge for the journey. Every guide working in the Darien Gap is a criminal network. The guides must be approved in advance by a criminal organization called a cartel and hand over a portion of their earnings to the organization. They have built hillside staircases and equipped the cliffs with ladders and camps, and even equipped them with Wi-Fi. The length of the journey depends on how much these migrants can pay. People have to walk for 4 to 10 days up and down mountains, over fast-flowing rivers, and through mud, carrying everything they own, including children. Those who make it through then take buses through most of Central America and continue north through Mexico to the US border zone. But the journey through the Darien Gap is hardly ever smooth. Payment does not guarantee safe passage. Sometimes, people who are paid to facilitate the journey instead extort migrants for more money. There are also reports of armed groups ambushing those in transit to seize belongings and money. Even those who have sewn money into their clothes are caught, hoping that the money will be safe from robbery. However, such efforts are futile, as the armed groups are experienced with such tricks. Extortion and kidnapping while traveling through the Darien Gap is a common occurrence. The Humanitarian medical aid organization Doctors Without Borders in late 2023 reported an increase in cases of mass sexual violence where hundreds of people were arrested, assaulted, and abused. In fact, it is estimated that in December 2023, one person experienced sexual violence every 3.5 hours while crossing according to Doctors Without Borders. The threat of loss of life comes not only from the criminal gangs that control the forest, but also from wild animals and the extreme conditions of the route in the Darien Gap. The paths are extremely muddy, especially in the rainy season. In mountainous areas, it is often necessary to climb over steep rocks or hold onto ropes to avoid slipping and falling off cliffs. Some migrants who shared stories of their perilous journey through the Darien Gap recounted seeing dead bodies along the mud-covered road, possibly the result of a slip or fall that led to death.
¿Cómo está el camino?
Duro, pero para adelante.
We've made it, but the group just a few hours behind us didn't. They reported losing dust.
The route of travel in the Darien Gap also includes passing through dangerous rivers, not only on its banks, but also in its streams. Flash floods and swift currents cause many people to be swept away and drown in the muddy water. Bruises, cuts, beast bites and broken bones are common. The daily high humidity and heat, coupled with the lack of clean drinking water, lack of food supplies, caused many people to fall ill with symptoms of severe dehydration. Another major fear for migrants is being separated from their families.
Yo dije, mi hija se cayó.
No.
No sé ni qué camino habrán cogido ellos. Y él va solo. Un niño de 13 años solo.
Ustedes subieron.
After walking through most of the jungle, the migrants reach one of two small indigenous communities, Bajo Chiquito or Canaan Membrillo, both in Panama. There, they are met by international humanitarian organizations such as Doctors Without Borders and UNICEF, who have set up reception centers to provide medical care and mental health services, as well as access to basic necessities such as water, hygiene, and sanitation with very limited facilities. The completion of the journey through the Darien Gap does not mean the end of their perilous journey. To reach the United States, migrants must cross half a dozen more borders where they risk being stopped or deported. Even if they make it to the southern border of the United States, a 4,023-kilometer journey from Central America, many of the migrants end up being expelled back to their home countries after a long and grueling journey. Despite the dire risks migrants face when passing through the Darien Gap, it is never deserted. In fact, as reported by UNICEF, it is estimated that by 2024, the number of migrants passing through the Darien Gap will soar to 800,000, given the unstable world economy and political turmoil in the migrants' home countries. For decades, efforts have been made to connect the Darien Gap to the Pan-American Highway. Planning to build this road began in 1971 with funding from the United States. However, the project stalled in 1974 after environmentalists voiced their concerns. In 1978, support from the United States was discontinued by the Department of Agriculture due to concerns about the spread of foot and mouth disease among cattle. Another attempt to build the road was made in 1992. However, in 1994, a United Nations agency reported that the construction of the road could cause severe environmental damage. The report pointed out that the Darien Gap played a role in preventing the spread of dangerous livestock diseases to Central and North America, which had not experienced an outbreak of foot and mouth disease since 1954. This factor has been the main reason why a road link through the Darien Gap has never been realized. In addition, indigenous tribes such as the Embera Wuna An and Guna, comprising around 8,000 people, expressed concerns that the construction of the highway would damage the forest ecosystem. Moreover, the indigenous tribes in the Darien Gap depend on hunting and fishing to fulfill their needs.